Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Are we? We're one by one. We're rejoining.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi guys. Hello, everybody out there. Hello, Jennifer, Eiley, Sam. Nice to see you guys out there in the big wide digital world. I'm here for the accents. All right, I better hand over to somebody with an accent. We're nearly ready, I think. Do we have everybody? So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you guys are in. My name is Fraser MacLean, and I'm the moderator, chairperson for this panel. And let's just go around and let everybody introduce themselves. We all came to CTN Expo together in 2015 and did some tours of Disney, DreamWorks, Titmouse, local studios, met lots of people. So if we begin, let's begin with Elaine. You want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hello, yeah, I'm Elaine. I am an animation development producer, script editor and project manager. And I am now currently based in Manchester in the UK, but I have spent most of my life in Scotland and joined the Scottish delegation to come to CTN 2015.
Very cool. Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, everyone. I am Jamie. Sorry in advance, we got a bit of a sore throat. I've been tested twice, but I'm okay. Yeah, I'm a CG animator. Mainly, lately, it's mostly in the games industry, but I have done some TV, so I worked on Happy with Axis for sci-fi. Lately, I've been at Slightly Mad Studios before that, Cloud Imperium Games in Manchester. But quite happy to be working from home right now, if I'm honest.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us. And if we go up one round to Amanda. Hello, Amanda. I should explain, Amanda came with us to CTN, and one of the knock-on effects of CTN was that the Scottish funding agency, Creative Scotland, which is like our equivalent of something like Pro Mexico or whatever, came to us and said, well, that was really successful. Have you got anything else that we could fund? And we said, yeah, we've got this training program we want to do with Sony. And Amanda was a story trainee under Jennifer Kluska from Sony Pictures Animation and is now working professionally in Scotland as a storyboard artist. Take it away, Amanda.
Yeah, well, Fraser, you've basically introduced me. So I'm Amanda. I've been working freelance as a storyboard artist and animator. I'm based in the Scottish borders. And last year I actually worked on Klaus as a cleanup artist. But at the moment, I'm a storyboard artist on a TV show in Scotland.
And one of the panels that we're going to be doing on the weekend on Saturday, 3 o'clock LA time, includes Armin Melkonian and Scott Capel, who both worked on layout for Klaus. So that's a continuation from that. Moving to one side, we have Mark Hendry, who's currently in Kilkenny in Ireland. Mark.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm an animator. I was at Boulder Media for 2.5 years, Lighthouse for 1.5 years. I did some background layouts for Knights of the Light Table, and yeah, moving to Cartoon Southern in January, basically. Yeah.
And moving up from, according to my display in the Brady Bunch boxes, we have Mick Cook above there, composer for animation.
Hello, yes, I'm a composer for animation, and I've worked on preschool shows like Zack and Quack for Nick Jr., Bodge and Bits and Bob for CBeebies, and I'm currently working with CBeebies on a mixed live action and animation series, and also on an animated special for a big US client. So yeah, that's what I do. And before that, I was a member of Bell and Sebastian for 15 years. So I'm based in Glasgow.
And Mick is being very modest. He's positioned his head so you can't see his gold disc on the wall behind him if he moves to one. So moving down the column, we come to Mr. Jonathan Mortimer, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, everyone. Jonathan here from sunny Falkirk in Scotland. And I'm a story artist, writer for animation, and IP developer trying to champion Scottish stories. And that's it,
Perfect.
I guess, for now.
And below Jonathan, we have Joanne Carmichael. Joanne, hello.
Hi there. Hi, I'm Joanne and I'm based in Glasgow and I'm a creative. I came up with some characters and an idea for a TV show, Lily's Driftwood Bay, which is been going for quite a long time. I think it's in about 120 countries or something like that. So, and then I took a bit of time out. That came out in 2014. I took a bit of time out after studying a bit of illustration and graphic design, and then I had a bit of illness and lost my mum. So I've had quite a few years out, but I'm trying to get back to things again, coming up with lots of ideas and things. Yeah, getting literally back to the drawing board. Yeah.
Right, thank you for joining us, Joanne. It's great to see you again after 5 years. Haven't seen you since the original CTN, so very nice that you can join us. And moving over to Jane Coulthard. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Fraser. Hi, everyone. I'm in Dundee, Scotland, and I worked in an animation firm called Interference Pattern, and now I've got my own company called Creative Fruit, and we're helping bring together immersive tech companies with creative talent like the ones here on this call, and I'm building a platform called Spatials as well to help artists reach, find money and sponsors and sell their work and things. So that's what I'm busy doing. Thanks. Hi, everyone.
Fantastic. And then we move over to Mr. Kenneth Anderson, who's also joining us from Scotland.
Hi, so I'm Kenny. Based in Glasgow, Scotland. Freelance illustrator and character designer. Kind of mostly working in kids television.
Great. And finally, the man without whom none of this would have been possible, and to whom we owe a debt of gratitude for the trip to California for the animation base camp, the very wonderful Mr. Will Adams from Wild Child Animation.
Hi there, I'm Will from Scotland's newest animation studio, I think Wild Child. We just formed in January, a week before lockdown started. We'd literally just been in the studio together a week and we all had to go home again. So, and that was a formation of Once We're Farmers, my previous company in Red Kite Animation. And we had a hairy few months getting up and running, getting a show off the ground. We're making Tom Gates for Sky at the moment, which is a mixture of 2D animation, stop motion, some film drawovers and stuff. So it's an exciting project. And we've got a CG team working on various things as well. And I've got to apologize to Jonathan. I've stolen his name because I used the wrong link to get in, obviously. So.
Very cool. We have our first question in the Q&A section, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Is it Eli Copperman or Ellie Copperman? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the question to everybody on the panel: what has been the most positive experience of creating work in Scotland where the industry isn't as big as it is in America? The most positive experiences. Who wants to go first?
I can go first on that one.
Although
I don't live in Scotland at the moment, but I think the big thing that I love about the Scottish animation industry is that you get to know everyone really easily, and there's a lot of ease of collaboration that comes out of that, and everyone's like super supportive of each other, so there isn't a feeling of a lot of competition, and it's a very supportive and friendly industry. So I think for me that's a big shorthand, and it just allows a lot of easier collaboration to take place.
Very cool. Anyone else? Any other takers?
I think that I'm constantly surprised by the talent, because I think in Scotland people don't sell themselves and they don't pick up their skills. So I'm constantly surprised how amazing the talent is. And I think, Scotland's regarded so well, like when we came to America, like the talent over there. But yeah, we don't shout about our talent enough in Scotland, I don't think.
Will?
I was going to say, yeah, we have I think we have a lot of creative freedom, a lot of room just to experiment and play with new technology, new ideas, because the industry here is in its infancy in lots of ways. So it means there's lots of exploration going on and trying new ways of doing things.
One of the things that we were also able to do, I don't know, Jane, do you want to say a little bit about, or Jonathan, to talk about Move Summit? Because there is an event that happens annually in Scotland that was very much inspired by CTN. Has that been an advantage to animation creatives in Scotland? Jane, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think it was amazing. I think obviously it was inspired by coming CTN, but I think it was a shared momentum of seeing the culture out there, of collaboration, of helping each other, that supportive network. And when we thought about making Move Summit as a team effort with many people here, it was about creating that culture, not just creating a schedule and event, but creating that atmosphere of people helping each other and coming together for the same mission to kind of raise the map of animation Scotland across the world and let people realise what talent was there, and also to bring people to Scotland and to collaborate with us. So I think Move Summit's been an absolutely fantastic thing for the Scottish animation industry to bring it closer to the rest of the world, and thanks to everyone's support of it.
We were able, through an organisation called the Animation Centrifuge, to bring John Navarez, Wouter Tulp, Mike DeFeo, Carl Gnass, a lot of people who, our connection with these people came through the CTN Expo event. Jonathan, do you want to say a little bit about what the guest list, the influence on the Move Summit guest list has been in terms of the original connections that were made in 2015?
Yeah, so it has grown over the last 4 years or so. So this year alone in 2020, we were honoured to have James Baxter over, and he gave, for the Move Summit, we split it into 1 day focused towards students and graduates. So that's the day I principally help organise, just use my passion of education. And we have 2 industry days. So we try as much as possible to get and coordinate guests to come in for the full spread, so they reach both the students as well as the local and national industry. So even though the Move Summit is the largest Scottish gathering, largest animation gathering in Scotland, we have many speakers that come both locally, nationally and internationally. So we fairly regularly get someone from Pixar or Disney, be an art director, like Noah that came and spoke about his involvement both in Brave and then how it changed to Frozen and his wonderful journey.
Noah Korczak from Pixar, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think for me personally speaking, it was definitely James Baxter is one of my animation heroes. So to be part of the team, to bring him over, particularly this year, was just amazing. And we hope to do each year. We try and do more. And it's now getting to the stage it's now more and more difficult to up the stakes, which is a great challenge to have. But at the same time, we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves because students, local industry, and even international industry ask us now, okay, how are you going to top from last year? So yeah, we'll see.
Penny, can I ask you, as a character designer, that one of the things that I've always really loved about the live CTN event is just being able to go into the big tent and walk up and down and see the character design stands, the concept artwork, whatever. How what for you is one of the kind of revelations about actually, getting your feet on the ground in Burbank and talking face to face with some of the other people who do the same line of work as yourself?
I think for me personally, I work at home, so I don't get out much. And just going from working in a small room at home to going to LA and meeting people from, everywhere, and just seeing all the artwork, it's so inspiring. And it makes you realize there's a whole world out there. And you're just you're not alone in your room, there's actually a whole industry out there. I mean, I know that, but you kind of feel it when you're there, if that makes sense. Yeah, so the inspiration is great. And just seeing everyone's artwork, and it's so encouraging to see so many people trying to do the same thing, and being supportive of each other.
One of the things that I really loved about it was when we were all in Bob's Big Boy Diner at the end of the trip, and Mick was sitting in a booth talking to Yvette Kaplan, And we got introduced, and I was like, I know Yvette's name, and suddenly I put two and two together and realised that they were collaborating with Mick, producing the music in Scotland, Gilly Dolev creating the series in Israel, and Yvette doing the. Mick, do you want to say a little bit about the international dynamic there in terms of just how many different connections there were involved in that one, in the Zack and Quack project?
Yeah, well, that was in Zack and Quack, which was a co-creation between Gilly Dolev, who's now based in Israel, but Gilly was at Dundee teaching animation there, and Yvette Kaplan was in Dundee, bringing her expertise about sort of story development and that kind of thing. So obviously she worked on Ice Age and she worked on Beavis and Butthead. She's done lots of amazing things, and she and Gilly met in Dundee of all places, and they created a show together, Zack and Quack. And actually Yvette went on to, not only was she co-creator, but she directed a few episodes, and so I was working with her remotely from Glasgow on Zack and Quack, and I hadn't actually met her until CTN. That was the first time that I met Yvette. So,
the reason that she came to Dundee was because Brian Robinson at the University of Abertay wanted to create an event in Dundee to bring some international names, and I asked Nancy Beeman if she could recommend anybody, and that was how I got Yvette's contact information, and we'd only ever spoken by email. And then when we were there in 2016, Will, you and Rory and Yvette and I met for breakfast at Porto's. And I remember, I don't know if your microphone is on there, you're at Will.
Yeah.
But just talking to Yvette about the work that she did on Beavis and Butthead and all these other things, that was, I remember that being a very inspiring breakfast the following CTN.
Yeah, that was awesome. She's great, very energetic and passionate person. Really nice to spend time with her. And she's given us feedback on some of the projects we were developing since then, and kept chatting away to her. So it's been really good. And that's the great thing, I guess, about CTN and stuff, is going and meeting these people, and you just have these kind of relationships that then continue for years sometimes afterwards. And yeah, it's good.
We've got an anonymous attendee question. Saying European movies, and we were part of Europe until quite recently.
We still are until we've got a couple of weeks left.
This question is still valid for another few days. So European movies usually have a smaller budget. Does this limit you, and how do you manage? So what are some of the challenges to being involved in lower budget animation projects in Scotland? Anybody want to jump up and answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in there. It's it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because obviously we would love bigger budgets to play with, and I think we're starting to get there in some things. But there's also a kind of an impetus to your creativity when you're restricted. You know, sometimes those constraints really force you to be creative, and there are some really beautiful movies that have come out of Europe. Astor's, I think so. So it's not all bad news having tighter budgets, but it would be nice to have more freedom as well.
I want to ask Mark. It was Mark. Yeah. One of the things that I remember about going to the Disney lot was that when Mark was a student, he used to do these amazing scene-by-scene breakdowns and analysis of Disney movies, and he did this kick-ass one all about Dumbo and some of the key scenes in Dumbo. And I had sent that over as a YouTube link to Howard Green, who Vice President of Communication at Disney, and he invited us over to the lot. And I was able to say, this is the guy that did this breakdown of Dumbo. But you're about to leave Lighthouse and go over to Cartoon Saloon. What do you feel are some of the major differences between what the industry is like in Scotland and what you see around you in Kilkenny and Dublin?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any experience of what it's like in Scotland, because my first job was in Dublin. So
you bailed really quickly.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if you think about the stuff that you know, like India Swift and Mike Doig do, where it's like a virtual studio, and they, you know, they have people from every different country. So for that sort of thing, I mean, there's no reason they you could do it from any country. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be here or there.
It's much less. There are fewer limitations than there once were, thanks to the technology.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is a little bit of a hang up, like here in Ireland, there's a tax break for animation companies, but yeah, you can only have a certain percentage of your company not working in Ireland. So, you know, you couldn't like set up an animation company in Dublin, get the tax break, and then ship all the animation to the Philippines or something like that. So yeah, it means even freelancers for Boulder or Lighthouse or cartoons, and then most of them are also here.
We have a question coming in from Andrew Osano. I want to point this towards Mick because Andrew is also a composer and orchestrator for games and animation projects, and he's joining us, I believe, from Michigan, unless I've got my wires crossed mentally. And Andrew's asking, where do you see the animation industry in Scotland going, and what are your hopes for the animation industry and the animation medium in Scotland, starting with Mick?
Well, I think it's growing. I mean, there's a Wild Child are doing great stuff, and Interference Pattern, Axis are doing great stuff. I think compared to a few years ago, there's a lot more happening, and people doing exciting projects. So I think Move Summit has been a great thing just to put Scotland on the map, and to say, I mean, actually it was very revealing to me that I was at Move Summit a couple of years ago with a producer that I was working on, that was producing a show I was working on, and he was saying, he's actually from Scotland, but he was saying, I had no idea there were animation companies in Scotland. And he's actually an animation producer, you know, at the BBC. So that's changed now. The people are aware of what's happening in Scotland and are working with animation companies in Scotland. So yeah, I'd just like to see it grow more. And I think one way to do that is just what we're doing here, just everyone collaborating and, you know, Move Summit and just everyone telling everyone about how great it is here. The talent, I mean, there's a lot of talent's gone. And I think one big problem that has been up till now is that animators have trained here maybe and then left because there hasn't been the work here. But that's changing. There are a lot more opportunities now for young animators. Yeah, that's it'd be great to see more people stay in Scotland.
Jamie, I know you've got a sore throat, but do you have a particular view of where you'd like to see things go for Scotland in terms of animation?
Well, I think everything's headed in the right direction anyway. I know Axis, talking to the supervisor there a few years ago, he was giving me details on how they're growing, how they're looking to get bigger and bigger, and Wild Child started up, and really excited to see what's coming through there. And compared to, I graduated just after the crash, and there was very little animation jobs going. All of a sudden, junior positions, you needed 2 years experience. So then I had to go further afield. And it's only really since CTN that it gave me a bit of a kick into gear to go and do like Anim Squad and do an online animation course. And since then, yeah, I've pretty much been working solid since. And that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. So it's really heading in the right direction.
Elaine, do you have any thoughts on this? I'm asking you while you're not actually in a position in Scotland.
Yeah, because I'll always have an eye on coming back. You know me, I do move around, but I always end up back in Scotland. So, yeah, I mean, I think just to reiterate what everyone else has been saying, you can see there's a lot more solidity to the industry. It feels like we're on the map a bit more in Scotland. Like Mick was saying, that some of the commissioners and broadcasters actually know there's an industry there now. I think, you know, collectively we've done a great job of shouting about this, you know, the talent in Scotland and the capacity to produce shows in Scotland by going to CTN and having the Animation Base Camp and Animation Centrifuge and Move Summit. All these things have just really helped. I think our individual confidence as well as our kind of collective clout as an industry. So I'm really excited about the future, and yeah, and I'll be keeping a close eye on it for when I'm coming back.
Amanda, one of the things that was exactly what Elaine was saying about increasing people's confidence, since you've been able to work on productions like Klaus, which was based in Madrid, but you know, it involved a big international crew, and also since the mentoring that you received on the base camp was all done by conference call. I mean, we use this same technology to connect you with Jen and the other mentors from Sony. Do you think that the idea of Scotland or the idea of Mexico, or how much does the geographical thing matter in terms of what you think of as the future for Scotland? Do you think the future is very collaborative and international, or is it local?
I think what's been really interesting working on the Tom Gates project at Wild Child is, I mean, it's primarily UK folk working on it, but there are others from elsewhere, and it's been really nice getting to know people that I wouldn't have met, because if it was happening in a studio in person, people would be working somewhere else. At the same time, working on Klaus last year, I was working in Edinburgh, so it was actually the cleanup had been sent to sell out animation, and there was a group of us all working on Klaus in Edinburgh in Scotland, which was just great to have that here. And you can't beat, you know, being in a room with other people. So I mean, I've done a lot of freelance, a lot of remote work, and I like that because I can live where I want and I can be near family and things like that. And I think going ahead, it's going to be a combination of things primarily, because I think people are enjoying that, having their own space, but they miss that actually meeting in person connection.
Joanne, if I can come to you from, you and I have both had a similar experience of being outside of industry for family reasons and coming back into the industry. As you find it now, coming back in the era of COVID and virtual connections, do you think that it's easier for somebody working from a base in Scotland to be ambitious about future projects thanks to this new technology, or thanks to this shift? Do you think that's made a difference in people's thinking about it?
You're asking me, Fraser?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I'm still very much sort of working on my own, literally in my own kind of bubble. But I'm developing new ideas and things, still sort of squirreling away and tucking myself away. And I think COVID almost encourages that. But I am aware that there's so much more opening up in terms of remote collaboration and remote possibilities. And, you know, whereas before you had to fly across the world for a meeting, or, you know, these things can happen very easily through Zoom and Skype. And so that kind of encourages me, because whilst I'm squirreling myself away, I'm also aware that maybe things I wouldn't be able to do normally might be possible for future collaborations. And I think lockdown and COVID probably encourages you to seize the moment as well, and to realize that, you know, the time to create things is now, the time to seize life and your creativity and all your ideas. It's no use hiding them forever. They've got to come out sometime. So yeah, I think this period of lockdown has probably spurred me on lots of ways, and I've got an eye to future possibilities, I guess, and that things are becoming possible through remote collaborations and things. Yeah. Has that answered your question?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got two streams of questions in chat and in Q&A. There's one from the chat section that Jamie would like to answer, which is coming from Sean Shukrun. I hope I'm pronouncing your name rightly, Sean. What can a young animator do to set themselves up for success in the industry? Jamie, fire away.
I'd say the first thing is to have a belief that you can do it. That's something that I had to get my head around at first. I had like surround yourself with people that maybe have the same goals. And something we spoke to Dave Burgess when we were at CTN, and the thing that stood out to me, he said, was just make sure you're getting your miles in the pencil. So it's practice, 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 get familiar with what you're doing. And if you do CG, although I think there's 2D hand-drawn animation courses available, but I really do recommend, if you're doing a university course or anything, to have a look at the online learning for further learning, because then you're getting direct feedback from the people that are doing it in the industry just now. So personally, I did Aram Squad. It's all Disney animators that teach through that. But there's a big ones, Animation Mentor. But yeah, I think if you take them into consideration and yeah, keep the illusion of life handy. Yeah, it's just the books everyone knows. I don't think you'll go wrong as long as you believe you can do it. And like I always thought, I struggled to get a job at first, but I always thought if I keep practicing, there's no way I can be rubbish when I'm 70. I'll get there eventually.
I'm nearly 60 and I'm rubbish, so we've got. Has anybody else got any advice based on Sean's question about what young animation, not just character animators, but what young animation artists or writers, how you set yourself up for success, whatever your chosen skill within the medium is? Anybody else like to chip in some advice for Sean?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, actually, I had to write a thing for the work blog this week about the same thing, so I still have my notes about that. Yeah, I mean, like when you're looking for your first job, it can really feel like things are totally out of your hands, you know. But yeah, just some things that kind of are within your control is like, you know, number one, just like make the best reel or portfolio that you can, update it as you get better, and chuck work that you've outgrown. The other thing is like show off what you're good at. You know, when you're studying and you want to learn, like you should attack your weaknesses. Like, you know, if you're good at drawing figures, like maybe try drawing cars for a bit, and that will teach you something that you can bring back. But when you're making work that's for public or for like portfolio, professional stuff, like you can kind of just like play into your strengths, like just go back into your comfort zone and do the thing that you know that you're good at. I would recommend doing that. Yeah, anything that you don't know, you can learn. And yeah, when you apply for a job and you do the cover letter, you can just like outright ask for a test, like instead of being, you know, kind of being around the bush about it, just being like, can I do a test, please? And that can actually, that can kind of like override the, you know, like the experience requirements or something. If someone's like, let me try, let me do it, that might work out. And yeah, if you do need to like fluff your CV a little bit, yeah, you can just go into more detail about your student projects. Just like tell them how you collaborated and like which programs you used, that sort of thing. Yeah, if you need to pad out the CV.
We have an interesting question from Sam Leek, who's joining us from Texas. So hi, Sam. And Sam's question, and this, I know that a lot of you studied in Dundee, some of you studied in Edinburgh. He's saying, what would you guys say is the best city in Scotland for beginning animation work? I've been looking at emigrating to Dundee, but I couldn't find many studios that caught my eye. what would you recommend to Sam? Dundee, Sam, is really big for the games industry. So if you want to work in animation for games, Dundee is a great choice. And you've got the University of Abertay and Dundee University, which both offer animation. The emphasis in Abertay is games. TV and film is much more Duncan or Jordanson for the university. But what would you guys say was the best city if somebody from a starting place in Texas or elsewhere in the world was thinking of coming to Scotland to study? What would your recommendation be?
I think it depends what discipline you're in. If you're more CG inclined, then probably Glasgow. If you're a bit more 2D, then Edinburgh. So it's kind of, so you've got Dundee games, CG, Glasgow, 2D, Edinburgh is roughly how it breaks down. It's not quite as clean as that, but I would say that's a way to look at it.
I think obviously there's the pure animation studios, but I'm in Dundee obviously with the gaming, and I'm hiring in for Glasgow studios at the moment are more in immersive tech, so it might not be the obvious choice. It depends what type of animation you want to do and what space you want to go into. But I think that's great about Scotland, that we do have a lot of crossover between tech, digital, and animation as well.
Sam is just adding in the chat section that he specializes in 3D modeling and surfacing. So Dundee might be better for games. But for any of you that have knowledge or experience of those specific area skills for CG production, do you think there's any particular advice that you would offer in terms of where somebody might consider being in Scotland?
I think either Dundee or Glasgow really works for that. You know, there's good courses in Dundee and Glasgow. The biggest CG studio we have in Scotland, well, until recently, the only sizable studio we had in Scotland was Axis Animation, who are based in Glasgow. So they that's really the kind of CG hub, and then more recently kind of Wild Child's grown up in Stirling, which is not far away. But yeah, so there's also Rockstar Games in Edinburgh, someone's mentioning there as well. So obviously they're absolutely massive as well.
But there are a sizable number of different games companies in Dundee, and you can quite easily, what would you say would be the best database of information collectively about where to make connections in animation in Scotland? Would that be through Animation Scotland or through, Jonathan, what would you think would be the best way for people to get information if they're in other parts of the world?
Of course, yeah, there's the Animation Scotland website, so you can look onto that. We have, I believe, about 15 members who are 15 studio members throughout Scotland, and they're based, I guess, principally right now, still in Edinburgh and Glasgow. I am still doing part-time teaching at Edinburgh Napier University, so if you ask me which course is the best or would be advised, I'd have to advise that don't depend on any one course, you know, that you only get myself, Jamie and Ryan, who just hasn't joined the call. We all started off for Paisley, Paisley University, now University of West of Scotland. And I think it's good not to depend on the course to provide everything to you, that you walk in that door being a novice or having a keen interest in animation and you'll walk out studio ready. So I think regardless of what course you go into, it also comes down to you know, your thirst for knowledge, your interest, finding these links, which could be, without being too biased, Animation Scotland, the Move Summit, and of course reaching out to have a look at and speak to some of these studios, because they are going to so many different events. With everything now being online, there's no excuse not to reach out and not to be in contact. And I'd say that, carrying on that earlier question, what I think is an important point is feedback. Feedback's massive. Feedback changed my life from CTN till now. From just one session changed it.
And we have another question that's come in from Waverley Wang, who I'm not sure where globally Waverley is based, but the question is it necessary to go to school for animation, or is it sufficient to go to online educational sources, or would you recommend going to university to get a campus education? Thank you for the question, Waverley.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say it doesn't matter that much for actually learning this stuff or getting a job, but it can matter for visa stuff if you're moving country. Like unfortunately, that sometimes does matter.
I'd also like to say one of the things I found, because I actually studied animation in Vancouver at Vancouver Film School, and so moving back to Scotland after that, I didn't have that connection to the Scottish animation industry. So it was actually through CTN, this trip, that I started getting contacts in the Scottish industry. So I think if you are going to study online, you need to make sure you're networking in other ways, because that is essential. It's absolutely essential to move forward in the industry.
I want to also just ask a question of my own, because Jane, when we were getting started on the session, you were talking about the work that you're currently involved in. And I know a lot of people here in Mexico are particularly interested in what's happening with the live render, all the new technology that's available for real-time rendering for environments, animation, virtual reality. Are those things that you see really beginning to take off in people's imagination or planning in Scotland? Jane, if I'm understanding where some of your own focus is at the moment.
Yeah, well, I've had 2 conversations with Glasgow studios this week called Solus and Sublime. And Sublime have actually just developed a new way of learning. So they've basically combined Zoom with virtual reality. So a lecturer can wear a virtual reality headset and they can teach lessons that can't otherwise be taught. For example, there's biomedicine or even animation. They can do the teaching in VR, but the entire rest of the class watches in Zoom. So the entire class gets a VR experience. So that's Sublime have created a platform called Edify, which I think is going to be pretty big news in terms of learning. So that's quite exciting. So they're gonna grow quite fast, I think, as a company. And then obviously Solus as well, they've had a lot of hardware, so they're looking at new ways of using that hardware rather than an event space and things. So there's quite exciting things. I think they're both very innovative businesses. So it's an exciting space to watch in terms of what's going to happen. And with my own company, Creative Fruit, we're working with immersive artists. We're helping them. So there's an artist that's going to make an immersive opera. He's a cyborg artist, and he creates art in 3D. And he wants to combine a lot of, smart clothing and smart suits you wear that respond to social media and all sorts of things. So there's really innovative people coming out of Scotland that are combining across all these fields.
I should also mention, as a trailer again for the discussion about layout, Ron Martin from Unity will be one of the panelists on Saturday's discussion about layout environmental design. And a lot of the work that they've been doing at Unity obviously is very, very much in this particular area. We have another question in from Asia Blackshear, and I hope I'm pronouncing both names correctly, Asia. I went to school for illustration, not animation. So my knowledge is limited. Do you guys have advice on getting production assistant type jobs that are more entry level? Elaine, maybe would you have advice for people in terms of production management or coming into the industry through the organizational side? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the areas of the industry that people are, coming out of college maybe less excited about in terms of, my experience. It's been hard to find good production people or people who want to become production managers, and it's such an essential cog in the machine of the industry. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that you're interested in moving into that area, and I think it's fairly straightforward. You need to make a few connections, put a good CV together, think about the skill set that you have in terms of organizing your time, how you met deadlines, all the kind of basic things that you've had to do just through your normal life and studying and things like that, because they're all really good transferable skills when it comes to production. And keeping a cool head and when all around you is losing theirs is really essential in that area. So I think being able to demonstrate your interest in that area would go down really well with a lot of people. It's about making connections again, or looking at studios that are nearby you that you would like to work with, and just drop them a line and ask them if you can, you know, have a call, or if they're looking for, they might not be looking for anyone specific, but nearly everyone will be happy to have a chat with you and let you know about what might be coming up.
One of the things that occurs to me to say also is that illustration, when I started work in the industry in 1987, I had zero experience of animation at all, but my portfolio got me the job, and it was traditional drawing of figure drawing, anatomy, perspective, composition, and that was what got me hired on Roger Rabbit. So, and going back to Snow White, I mean, Snow White was made by illustrators, you know, guys like Ferdinand Horvath and Gustav Tenggren. They were recruited because they were amazing, experienced children's book illustrators. So being and also, you know, there is a huge overlap. I think Kenny would probably support me on this, that, you know, there are a lot of people working in character design who are not necessarily animators per se, but they are extremely good in other respects. So an illustration portfolio or qualification is not going to block you from creative work. Would you say that's true, Ken?
Yeah, that's it. Right, my favorite character designers are all illustrators. So Carter Goodrich and Peter DeSev, they're not, well, they are character designers, but they started out as illustrators. And basically what I've found is, through my career, I've been moving back and forward between illustration and character design, and the two skills, they really complement each other. And I'm trying to move more into illustration now. So yeah, I don't know. I think the skills are the same. It's all about storytelling and the same ideas. It's just a different way of doing it. But the crossover skills are just...
Copy and paste a link to your work in the chat section, so if people are interested to find out more about what the overlap is, they can see examples from your portfolio. Yeah. We have another question from Chinyera Johnson. Chinyera, I hope I'm really worried about pronouncing people's names wrongly. So Chinyera is asking, what does a production assistant do on an animation production? I also went to school for illustration, and I want to work in the industry, but I'm looking for different ways to do it. Practicing 2D currently on pencil 2D. So curiosity there about what the role is of a production assistant. Anyone want to jump in?
They're the people who ask people like me to hurry up.
You get to be the person who goes and cracks the whip behind Mark's desk.
Yeah.
It's really about helping keep everyone organized, tracking where everything's at, you know, kind of lots of spreadsheets, kind of going around the team, making sure, you know, if someone's fallen behind, that's checked and logged, or if someone's ahead, they're not sitting waiting, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a new bit of work to be given them. So it's really keeping the machine rolling along. I was going to add as well, if you don't have much on your CV, but you're looking to get into that, and one of the things you need to show is a real passion for animation. Basically, our most recent hire, who's fresh out of Dundee Art College, she has an encyclopedic knowledge of Disney films and has been running all our Zoom quizzes, and it's just that total passion for animation that, you know, made her stand out from everyone else.
Yeah, and I would also like to add, I was going to say about the passion thing as well. It's really, you know, that's the biggest thing if you want to get into the industry. You don't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge. I didn't study animation, and I really wanted to work in the writing side of the industry. And that's how I ended up learning about development, producing, and script editing. And I think, you know, that's another side of the area of the industry that can be really fun, and in a production assistant terms as well, you can be helping to manage and track the scripts and the stories and that side of it. But yeah, being able to run the work quizzes is probably going to give you the edge.
And thanks, Elaine. Amanda, can I ask you, when we were doing the Animation Basecamp, one of the things I thought was really, I was so pleased we were able to do was get training for Yvonne and Kim as production coordinators. We were also really lucky that the Glasgow Caledonian University gave us an open plan space. So the story crew, the character designers, biz dev artists were seeing every day what the challenges were of the production coordinators. Was that useful or eye-opening for you, Amanda, just to notice what their role was?
Definitely. I think it helped all of us to see what was going on, and it was I think it changed how we worked in some ways, because especially towards the end of the project, and we were putting boards together, and I think me and another story artist were helping the production coordinators put some stuff together, and seeing how they were using our files, it was like, okay, I'm going to start organizing my things a little bit differently because this is a real problem for them. So I think, yeah, when you see how other people are working, it does change how you work and how you pass things on to other people.
I think we're coming close to the end of our hour. Do we have a 60-minute or a 90-minute session? I can't remember. But I have a direct question that I want to put from Andrew Osano, again, composer, orchestrator, directly to Mick. Are there any particular challenges that you face writing music for animation, specifically, as opposed to other media?
Yeah, it's all about hit points for animation. So get to know how your DAW works with hit points, and look for those hit points and make sure you match them. It's a lot more important than it is in live action. Yeah.
And what do you find as the particular appeal of being a composer for animation?
I just love animation. I just like looking at the pictures. It kind of inspires me, you know. Yeah.
And Mick, can you also share some of your work, like a link, so that I know that Andrew has a SoundCloud page.
Yeah, I've just put it up there actually, so I'll do that again.
So we only have 60 minutes. We are pretty much close to our time here. One quick question, last question, anonymous attendee, what is the industry like for those of us that want to get into storyboarding for animation? I think this is definitely an Amanda question. Our last question.
I found it tough to get in. I've just kept drawing for myself, doing personal projects, applying for jobs, applying for more jobs, and just letting everyone know that I want to work in storyboarding. I really just say keep persevering with it, keep making your own stuff, and yeah, keep going. Believe you can do it, as Mark was saying earlier.
There is always demand for storyboard artists, so that's the flip side of it. Producers are always looking for good, you know, and I emphasize good storyboard artists. So as Amanda says, when you practice, don't give up, because you will get somewhere if you get good.
I also hear they get paid a lot more than as character designers.
What was that, Henry?
I also hear they get paid a lot more than us character designers, so storyboarders.
Okay.
Yeah, they were definitely
the panel
highest paid artists.
The panel that follows this is about storyboarding at Blizzard. So let's hand over to the Blizzard guys. Thank you very much, Mick, Mark, Amanda, Elaine, Jamie, Jonathan, Will, Jane, Joanne, Kenny, all the people who couldn't make it. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks to Tina and Lucia and CTN. And see you soon.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye all. Thank you.
See you later, everybody.